This episode is brought to you in part by Audible.com. With more than 150,000 titles to choose from, there is something for everybody. You can listen to all your favorite audiobooks on your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or other MP3 device, and now Audible is going to give you a free 30-day trial and one free audiobook download just for listening to this show. All you have to do is go to www.audibletrial.com/IRNerdivore and sign up today. That's www.audibletrial.com/IRNerdivore. One more time. www.audibletrial.com/IRNerdivore. Additional funding is provided by Amazon.com. Go to www.irnerdivore.com and click on the Amazon.com banner at the top of the page. Anytime you shop at Amazon.com, use that link and Amazon will give the show a little bit of a kickback. You'll get all the same great stuff you want and we'll get the same great prices and you'll help out the show. It's a win-win situation. And lastly, we get to do the show because of the support of listeners like you. So donate early and often.
This show is intended for all audiences, but some content may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener caution is advised.
Hello and welcome to The Quest. I'm your host, Dr. RPG Jeff Harvey, and you can follow me and the show on Facebook and Twitter at IRNerdivore. You can also visit the show on the web at www.irnerdivore.com. It's a good site there. Give it a check and, do the stuff you're supposed to do on websites. Click stuff, read stuff. Thanks for hitting the download button and listening to our show today. If you like the show, you can subscribe on iTunes. Just search for IRNerdivore. And be sure, if you appreciate the show, and we'd appreciate if you guys could go ahead and give us a good rating on iTunes. That's a good way for us to get the word of the show out and get everybody in the world involved and so on and so forth. So anyway, without any further ado, let's go ahead and get down to the business we came here for. I have no notes, so the notes I'm reading off of, throw them away. This is a brand new show. I've got a brand new guest who's never been on the show today. She's an original brand new first starter GM even. And I talked about that in the last episode. It won't be the last episode for you guys. It'll be the 2 episodes ago, the GM episode. That I would have new GM on and we'd be talking new GM stuff. So I'm going to do that today. And this is Tashi. Tashi, how are you?
I'm very good. Hello, Internet.
Hello, Internet. That's a good thing to do. So as we do with all of our shows, we want to talk a little bit about what your geek cred is. And in the last show, I did it at the end of the podcast because we were, trying to sell a product. But for this one, we're just trying to sell you on why you're a nerd and why you get to be on the show. So go ahead and tell the world, the 8 listeners we have, explain to them why you get to be on the show and why you're a nerd.
Okay. I've been LARPing since 2008, 2009, one of those years. I've also been tabletopping since around then. I've played a ton of different games. D&D, I think I've tried almost every edition, at least for one game. World of Darkness with their White Wolf, their Vampire, and now their New World. I did RuneQuest for a hot minute.
Ouch.
It wasn't that bad. It was early in my gaming, so it wasn't that bad.
Right.
I also have lots of crazy passions.
Like what?
Like mermaids.
Like mermaids, yes.
Like mermaid.
In fact, you're going to be at Geek Fan Expo as a mermaid, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
I'm going to have a panel there about how to be a pro mermaid too, so you should check that out.
You should, and you can buy tickets online right now at www.geekfanexpo.com, and right now is the sale. So look at that quick plug, and I'm talking super fast. I don't know what the deal is.
Mm-hmm.
I think last show I spoke like so slow, and I hardly talked at all, so now I'm trying to get it out. For those of you who don't know, I just recorded. This is the second episode today I'm recording, so it's a lot. It's a lot to do, and I got a lot done. But you guys need to check the podcast that I did earlier today, which will have come out probably last week for you guys, with Liz Tice about the Realmworks software, good stuff. And actually, I want to show you some stuff about the Realmworks too, since you're a new GM, and as we're talking about new GM stuff, the software looks pretty awesome.
It sounded interesting the little bit you told me before.
Yeah, so we'll have to talk about that. Probably not today, but we can talk about it after the show is over. Once I've had a chance to do a little bit more research on it and get that show out into the world.
Cool.
So you brought a list of things you wanted to talk about today, and sort of a list of things that you want to talk about today. A better list than I had because I have not prepped for this show at all. This is totally winging it. So this is probably going to be one of the bad episodes.
No, it's going to be fabulous.
It'll be
I'm
fabulous.
on it.
That's true. And if it is a not super ultra fantastic episode, we'll just do it again later. We'll have you back for another episode.
I can do that.
That's easily enough to do. So what kind of things do you want to talk about? Let's I guess since you're a new GM, what is the first game you started running?
Well, the absolute first game I ever tried running was a D&D 4th edition game.
Oh.
Don't judge me. It's what I was introduced to.
You are judged.
It was what I was introduced to. I couldn't help it. I'd been planning it for months. I had this amazing world and this amazing plot and all these loopholes and all these things, and it was going to be fantastic. And I put an event out on, I put a message out on Facebook, and I was like, hey, I'm going to be doing this thing at this time. Just, show up. I figured there'd be like 4, 5 people.
No.
20-something people later.
Yes.
Yeah. First GM, more people than could fit in my living room.
Yeah, you got to be careful with those Facebook announcements because people want a game so bad that they'll jump on any opportunity to get into someone else's house and muck it up.
Well, it seemed to go well. Everyone had a ton of fun. I was extremely irritated with the PCs because here I thought I had this big elaborate plot, and one of the experienced gamers was like, that person's important. That person is important. We're going to pay attention to that.
Right.
And I was like, no, you're supposed to, no, that's okay. And then there was this big encampment, and they were going to have to fight their way through, and it's like, oh, well, this person and this person and this person, we have these disguise things, and we just happen to roll enough natural 20s that we can disguise the entire group to just walk through this goblin encampment, no problem.
Yeah, that's a sign of not only less than stellar play, but also it's a distinct sign of a new GM who you can get around a lot of that stuff by a little bit of experience and a little bit of thinking quick on your feet, or just boning your players, which is what I like to do.
Yeah, that was in the beginning of my gaming career.
Yeah, hey, everybody, I can't explain to you the number of times I have messed up entire storylines. Like I think I've run games where we played D&D for probably 8 or 9 months, and I screwed the whole thing up with one sentence. It can happen. So, what game are you running now, though?
Right now, I am running a World of Darkness game, New World, and it is the game I'm calling it is Innocence Lost. The concept is you are a bunch of perfectly average, normal children, age 7 to 12. You live in the perfectly average American suburban town, and then crap hits the fan, and you find out that all these stories and all these things that you thought were, fairy tales and bad movie things, nope, they're real. Or at least one of them's real, so maybe everything else is real. Have fun with that.
Right. Now, you started out with Old World of Darkness, right?
Yep. One of the best games I ever played was Old World Vampires, and I loved the system, I loved the setting, and I just kept going with it. What
kind of troubles have you gotten into as far as running the game with a system you're not... I mean, it's a system you're relatively familiar with, but there's enough difference in it that you're not, not necessarily as familiar as you thought you were.
It has been interesting, because I read through the rule book and I read through everything, and I thought I got this, and then I realized no, I do not have a good enough memory to got this.
Right.
So for the first few sessions, I completely made things up. I didn't do any combat, which was okay because I have a co-GM, which we will talk about later.
Yes.
He ran all the combat. I am working on learning the combat system, and I realized if you don't know what you're doing, there are cheat sheets. There are cheat sheets everywhere. You can download the cheat sheets and use them and look at them, and they make your life easy.
Yeah, there's nothing quite as important as having a quality GM screen or cheat sheet. And fortunately enough, the World of Darkness system has a lot of really good stuff because they run into a lot, it's a common problem in the White Wolf system of people getting lost in what's going on. It's a very, very easy system, and I think that confuses people. So,
Yes. So,
So
what?
Go ahead.
Nope, you go.
I was gonna say you had a lot of players for that first gaming session, didn't you?
Yes, I had, I think, 16, 17.
How'd you handle that many people?
It actually ended up working out pretty well. For the first, because we had a pilot session that was only supposed to be a single session. It ended up being 3. But a lot of the times, either the group was together and they were doing things sort of together, or they sort of divided off into 2 groups, which worked well because there were 2 GMs. So one GM took one group and another GM took another group, and we went into separate rooms and we did our things, and then people went back together, and then they had their moment of, what is going on? Well, I don't know. This is what happened with us, and this is what happened with us, and I don't know what we're doing, which gave us a moment to be like, okay, this is what happened. Now what?
As a new GM in this system, how have you been writing your stories? Or one of the previous episodes I talked about prepping GMs and on the fly GMs, and there are other kinds obviously, but those are the 2 most common and the most extremes. So where would you put yourself on that?
Initially I had virtually no plot at all of any kind. The initial pilot plot, the GM came up with, I said, so here's my idea for what we should do, but I don't know what the monster should be. And he was like, I have this awesome thing, we should do it. And then we did it. And then after that, I was like, oh, I'll come up with these amazing plots and these awesome things. And then I didn't. And then the game was there. And then I was like, I don't know what to do. So I did random things, and then random things progressed into something that looked like a plot. And then between sessions, I came up with this whole big thing, and it was going to be great, and it was going to be awesome. And then there were PCs.
Right.
So I've stopped writing plots, and I've done okay, so here's the world, and this is what the world is going to do, and we'll just see what happens.
Right. So you're not writing up like encounters or anything like that. You're just kind of winging it and seeing how it goes.
Not really. I want to write up base level NPCs so I can just pull them out and be like, here's an encounter when it makes sense for there to be an encounter, or when it doesn't make sense for there to be an encounter, just because.
Right.
But right now it's more of so this is what the world is going to do without you.
Right.
Because I tried doing this is what the world will do with you. And
right.
Then they picked the mushroom.
Yeah. No plan survives first encounter with PCs.
Mm.
So, in all of that, I mean, being a new GM, there's a few subtleties to being a GM that a lot of people don't really understand and don't really know. And I was wondering if you've noticed them yet, if you've picked onto them. Do you think you're comfortable being able to read the mood of your players and the mood of how the gaming session is going, as far as being able to adjust what you're doing as a GM, allowing them to role play, or they're in a good session and you don't want to, they're in a good motion and we don't want to drop an encounter on them, or things are slowing down to drop an encounter on them. I mean, how are you gauging that kind of stuff?
I think, well, part of it is I have really good players.
Sure.
And I think a lot of it is that I sort of just do what I do to have fun when I'm a player, and everybody keeps coming back. So, and also after every game, I do sit around a circle. Okay, what did your character learn? And do you have any feedback about the game? And so each session's been able to progress a little bit, and it's also since it's me and a co-GM. Maybe one of us will pick up on something that the other one's not getting, and
right. How does that work with the 2 GMs?
It's interesting. I'm sure there's been a bit of a learning curve. Like, it's difficult because like it's my game, so I guess you'd say I'm head GM sort of thing.
Right.
But I've been very open about I don't know what the frack I'm doing.
Sure.
and he's more experienced and he knows a lot more about it and the system and all that stuff. Though neither of us have a lot of experience with New World of Darkness. I think a lot of it's just about communication and sitting down and being like, this is the plot we're thinking. This is the rules we're gonna go with. This is, what the plan is. It's just about communication.
How's your guys' collaboration been so far? I mean, as far as who's writing the stories, or do you guys just are you both in the same room at the same time and running the game, or how is that working?
Unfortunately, these last couple sessions, we haven't really been able to sit down ahead of the session. So we get there and everyone's there, and then it's like, okay, we are taking 30 minutes while you guys eat food to figure out what we're doing. Go.
Right.
Otherwise, things have been really good. He's been writing or running a lot more of the, I guess, like heavier sort of stuff, and I've been doing a lot more like of the side plot sort of fluff things, I
Right.
guess.
Your characters are all kids, so they're in school, right?
Yep, there's school, and that hasn't taken a dramatic part in the game yet, but the game started when school started.
Right.
So now they're like a week and a half into the school season, so that's going to start.
Right. And is that the kind of stuff that you're running, what's going on at school, and he's running the stuff that's going on outside of school, or is it more mixed than that, less defined than that?
Less defined.
Okay.
Like he's been he sort of has the Man of Shadows thing that's his thing, and he had something about bodies missing, and there's some dude in the woods, and what I'm currently running is more like a fairy thing. So
Okay. You're not too worried about that confusing the players, or are those two things mixed together well enough that they'll work out?
they're completely separate, but the way they work, players are able to follow one or the other, whichever they choose.
Sure.
So they get to choose what they're doing without really choosing, sort of.
Right, the illusion of free will kind of thing that we
Yeah.
talked about before.
Yep.
We didn't talk about it, but I've talked about it before.
I heard the discussion about it.
Yeah, I liked that episode, even though it was me talking for an hour.
I learned a lot from it.
Yeah, it's good. That's what they're for. What kind of problems have you stumbled upon as a brand new GM? I mean, like, what has been your biggest hurdle to overcome?
Well, the one is definitely the rules. I have a huge problem with rules, and I want to be able to run combat, because so far my co-GM Bobo has, and I haven't really, but I want to, so I'm working on
Right.
it. And another one is I have a very giving personality,
Sure.
and you need to be able to assert yourself better with your players.
Right. Otherwise, they will. Some of them will take advantage of you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably been my biggest problem so far is being able to draw my line in the sand and say no.
Right. How have you been? I mean, how have you felt you've been, anyways, as far as the ability to how good are you at saying no?
Pretty terrible.
Right. Right. Well,
I'm working on it though, and I'm finding ways to go about it. Like one of the things I'm having them do now is they have to turn in inventory sheets, and they have to turn it in before the next session. And if they don't turn it in, or it's not on their inventory sheet, you don't have it.
Sure. So you're going more of a kind of like almost like a LARP style.
Well, a lot of them are LARPers, so
Right. And
It works.
that does make for a different dynamic, a group too. So you've got a lot of experienced people, and they're used to a lot of heavy RP that is a lot of liberties. And now I know I said in the previous episode that saying yes is the best way to move a story forward, but sometimes saying yes actually will derail the party. And I can understand that you have those you could have those kind of problems. I sat in on one of your gaming sessions, and I took that away. So that's what I took away from it, was that there's a definitive need to have a little bit more structure. The players are always looking for the best way to make themselves the center. And you can do that, but you have to do it with a limit, especially early on in the game before things are really established.
Yep. And that's one thing that I really want to do with the game is things have gone super dramatic, super fast, and I want to try and
Reel it back.
rein it in a little bit.
That's really, really hard to do. I've done that a few times, and I've had games that have jumped. Like my last world game that I ran was 1920s Detroit, and they were all regular people that eventually got involved in Supernatural, and the Supernatural stuff came way faster than I had planned it to, because it's the players bit on the little hints so hard and so fast that it was it got out of my control really quickly. And I tried to rein it back in, and you quickly find that if the players get accustomed to it, they get accustomed to it, and it's really hard to rein it back in. You kind of have to string it out. It's kind of hard to do. So, what's your next point that you wanted to talk about that we haven't already hit on? I know I caught a couple of them already.
Oh, well, I just thought of another one. One of the problems I'm having is that all the children, they're different ages, but most of them are the 10 to 12 range.
Right.
But I have a 7-year-old, so it's been difficult to try and figure out how to incorporate.
Right.
Because 7-year-olds just can't do the same things that 12-year-olds can.
Right. Well, plus you're not in the same grades. You're not. There's a lot less likelihood of them being together.
Yep. So I've been trying to work that out with oh yes, this 12-year-old is one of your regular babysitters, and it also helps that the 7-year-old's mother runs a cupcake shop, and that is the place the PCs hang out.
Right.
So
Right.
7-year-olds, oh, I'm just at the cupcake shop, and I'm gonna go hang out with these kids who I know, and
Right.
then things happen.
Right. The tag along kind of thing. Yeah. It can be tough. Party unity is extremely necessary and important for any good game, and it's one of those things that if you have a lot of difference, a lot of disparity in the reasoning for the group being together, it can be really tough, especially on a new GM. So,
But the 7-year-old works well. She's really good at staying in her character, and I think it helps ground the other people sometimes. Like, we wouldn't do this. We're 12.
right, that is, I would think, one to be one of the biggest challenges for the PCs is that your player's average age is probably almost 30, maybe a little over 30.
There's a couple people who'd bring it down maybe to like the 27, 28 range.
Yeah, but there's a couple who put it closer to 40. So that's why I would say it's probably close to 30. I don't know. I don't know the ages of everybody there, but between 27 and 32, I would think. And it can be difficult to realize how much you've changed and how much you're not a 12-year-old. So I imagine that's kind of a challenge, and your players sometimes might get a little out of control as far as, well, I'm going to go get this gun and do this, or I'm going to go, do that or whatever.
So far, there hasn't been many issues with guns. Though this last session, as I mentioned, there were bodies missing from the graveyard, and they went into the woods at night, and they found this guy, and he had the circle, and he had these bodies in the shape, and he was saying this whole thing in Latin, and one of the characters, who's a preacher's son, like very religious preacher's son who knows Latin, is like, he's talking about raising the dead. So one of the characters is like, I got this. And he just takes this baseball bat and he beats the guy in the head until, and we closed off before they found out if he's dead or not.
Right.
But he's laying on the ground and he ain't moving.
Well, you got hit in the head with a baseball bat. I don't care if you're 12 years old or not. You can hurt somebody with a baseball bat.
Yeah, it wasn't just one. It was like repetitive.
Right. Yeah. A beating.
It was a severe beating.
Yeah. Got all Rodney King on him.
Yeah, that character is going to have some interesting evolutions.
Yeah. You run into a lot of problems when you're I don't know, it's PCs can you want to be the big hero, obviously, and you always want to be the hero, and it can be a problem when your players are so young as far as keeping the heroics going and keeping it realistic. So I mean, I've read the Innocence book, and it's a pretty good book. It's hard to get your hands on, but it's a pretty good book.
Yeah.
It can be tough. It was a very difficult setting for me to wrap my head around as far as being able to play it, because I can't think like a 12-year-old anymore. Like, I look at high school kids and I don't get it anymore. And I'm not that old. I'm old, especially by comparison to a high schooler, but I'm old enough that I can't do it anymore. I can't wrap my brain around that type of play anymore. So I can imagine it's really tough and hard for you as a GM to keep people on that train of thought.
Mm-hmm. It is interesting, which is it's another reason I want to bring more of the school back into the game to hopefully
keep it in their minds. Yeah. So how are you going to go about correcting the problems you have as a GM? I mean, obviously as a GM, you have to improve, right? Because if you get stagnant as a GM, then your players are, they're only going to they can only make their own fun for so long, and they can only tolerate the GM missing steps for so long. So what are you doing to try to improve your GM ability, your understanding of the rules, the things that you have noted in yourself as flaws as a GM?
Well, this is actually going to be the first session where I have the cheat sheets, so I'm really hoping that'll help. I'm also making a lot of things for myself, so I have a better concept of their neighborhood and their world and where things are located and who's there and how they interact with one another.
Right.
And
you've seen the sheets for WOD? The neighborhood creation sheets and the town creation sheets, that kind of stuff.
Yes, I'm actually going to build their town in The Sims.
Nice. I used to build them in SimCity.
Yep. I'm getting The Sims 3, and I'm going to build their little town, and I'm going to populate it with all their little neighbors, and then I'm going to have little sheets with this is their neighbor, and this is their things, and this is what they like, and this is what they do. And
right. So you're basically going to go with a little bit more setting prep. Okay. And what about the rules? So, I mean, you've got the problems with, not, I mean, you said you got the cheat sheets and stuff, but Have you considered doing like some actual, I don't know, like I know one of the things I do to get people into a new system is I run tournaments, that kind of thing. Tournaments that use the rules they're going to use. So they might not be doing full on combat, but maybe they're doing a Quidditch tournament or, they're playing a soccer game or a lacrosse game, and you can use a lot of try to incorporate the skills so that you and they both get accustomed to how the rules work and how the defense and things like that work. You ever consider doing that?
I did not consider doing that. That would actually work really well because we have some very sporty children.
Right. Yep. I knew. I have a slight advantage, so
Yes,
I know what's going on.
You probably hear quite a bit about it.
I hear entirely a lot about it. I don't want to say too much, but I don't want to say I hear too much, but I hear enough that I don't need to play because I know what's going on. So, not that I don't want to play, I just don't have time. So, do you? Well, I guess before we get to the next step, I think take a quick break here to talk about one of our sponsors, and I know I already talked about that one, so maybe we'll talk about the Geek Fan Expo one real quick. For those of you who listen to the show, you know that we're doing a convention, and it's going to be September 5th, 6th, and 7th, and it's going to be called Geek Fan Expo. And here with us today, we actually have one of our panelists and one of our exhibits, as it were.
Hi.
Mermaids. You can't beat that, right? How many conventions have mermaids? Don't answer that. It's a little bit more than it's in this area, there are quite a few.
With mermaids?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's always you. You were at Detroit Fan Fair, and you haven't been to Youmacon yet, have you?
So far
as a mermaid,
I recall, there's not a pool at Youmacon.
Yeah, I don't think there is a pool there.
So with the new tail that I'm making, that can be possible because I can be movable.
Oh, nice.
Mobile. Well, right now it weighs a lot. So.
And obviously you do Ren Fair. That's the highlight kind of thing.
Yep. Last year I did Michigan Renaissance Festival, and I've done Mid-Mich for 3 years now.
Nice.
Or this will be third year.
Right.
Words.
Yeah, they're things. But you will be able to catch Tashi at Geek Fan Expo along with some of our other guests in our 24-hour gaming room and all that kind of stuff. And you can follow Geek Fan Expo on Facebook and Twitter at Geek Fan Expo. And GFX is going to be at the Doubletree Hotel in Dearborn, Michigan. And I said September 5th, 6th, and 7th, 2014. Tickets are on sale now at www.geekfanexpo.com. And you can use promo code IRNerdivore and get 20% off the already extremely low prices. I think right now a two-day pass is $25.50, which is really cheap. I love it. It's going to be a great show, and the more people we get there, the better. So I want to make sure people get a chance to get out there. We're also going to be at PenguinCon this year, and May 3rd, I believe, is the Saturday of May 3rd. And we're gonna have a room party there where you can meet some of our guests, meet the staff, and you can also meet the brand new Bubblegum Girls. That's a thing. So they're fantastic, and no other convention has those yet. And we'll talk more about what those are in an episode of Iron Nerdivore. Tell your friends, tell all the random folks in the streets you meet, tell anybody you walk across, go into your gaming stores and tell them that they need to, go to the website and get their stuff going and talk to us and blah, blah, blah. Climb tall buildings and shout to the world, spread the word, and let's make GFX 2014 a huge success. And on that note, I know I just butchered the crap out of that self-promotion there. But hey, what are you going to do? Anyway, we're getting back to talking to Tashi about new GMing and some of the issues she's having with GMing and some of the things that she has learned about being a GM and whatever else she's got on her little list there. And again, like I said before, I have not prepped for this episode, so I'm hoping to God it's good. So far, I think it's been pretty good. So, So what else you got on your list you want to talk about?
I'd say one thing would be just do it. I've been thinking and planning and dreaming about doing this Innocence game for like 2 years now, but I was like, I don't know the rules enough. This, that. And then one day I was like, you know what? It's never going to happen if I don't do it. And I'm never going to get better if I don't do it. So I'm just going to do it.
Right. Did you have a lot of anxiety about being a GM for the first time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I don't really, my D&D thing that it was only one session and I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Right.
At all. So I still have no idea what I'm doing.
That's all right. I will tell you a secret. I've been GMing for years, a lot of years. I don't know how many it is off the top of my head, but a lot of years, and I still don't know what I'm doing.
No, so just do it. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to know everything. Your players will still have fun.
You can hear that right through the table.
Airplane mode on.
Yeah.
Just do it. I don't know what I'm doing, but my people keep showing up. So hey.
Yeah, and players are ultra forgiving. Like they'll show up to, you can do just about anything and they'll keep showing up. It's fantastic. As long as you're not consistently super horrible and they're having fun, you can do a lot. And players, like I said, are very, very forgiving. So if you have a couple of bad gaming sessions, as long as you have one really good one, they'll get past it. I mean, they understand. Players understand. They're not going to be any better at GMing than you are. So, and they're not the ones running the game, so they can just suck it up.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
That's one that I get my players with a lot. It's like, hey, they get mad because we don't game every week. In fact, we haven't gamed in almost a month and a half now, really, because I've been writing new story. And I keep telling them, hey, you guys can run whatever you want. Anytime you're ready, pick up a game. I got character sheets. I'll make new characters. I can make a character in just about any system in less than an hour. So, hey, even if I've never played that game before, let's go.
Nice.
So, but nobody's yet taken me up on the offer. So that's all right, though. We should be getting back to my Star Wars game next Monday. So I've written a bunch of stuff. They got so far off a track, I couldn't keep up with what they were doing anymore. And I'm like, oh, okay, time out. So don't ever be afraid to take a timeout if you need to. I know you guys, your game is a lot more sporadic, so you have a lot more time to do stuff.
Unfortunately, I want it to be more regular, but things have been just so crazy and hectic with schedules that it's like, I'm available again in 3 weeks. Oh, look, we can do it this Saturday. Oh, how about next week or 2 weeks from now? Or I don't know. We'll see it happen eventually.
Yeah. And that can actually be a big drain on the GM as far as getting stuff written, because you don't really know for sure when the next time you're going to game is. And when you do know, it's like, all right, we're going to game in 3 weeks. I got 3 weeks to come up with a story. And then 3.5 weeks go by and you realize that you didn't have any story for the last gaming session you just did. There are a lot of ways that you can use to help write story and help make you improve as a GM. Have you considered using any, like when you write what you write, or you said so far you don't really write a whole lot, but what you have written, how have you been doing it? Like you've been using like Evernote, Springpad, just a notepad, just writing it in your head and hoping you don't forget it.
That one.
Yeah, that's what I do too.
I just signed up for an Obsidian portal thing, so I'm hoping maybe that will help to some degree.
Yeah, it doesn't.
No.
No. Obsidian portal is really good for a lot of people, but gamers like myself, and I it sounds like you're very similar. There's so much work that has to go into it that you don't do it. And you don't keep up on it. So your portal sits there and is just unused. That's one of I just talked about the Realmworks thing earlier, and I really want to get my hands on it because I think it might help a lot. But a good thing to use, like for me, is I use a lot of cloud-based stuff. So Springpad is really good. Evernote, except you got to pay for Evernote. Springpad's free. I used I used Microsoft OneNote for a long time. That was a fun one to use. You can't use that because you use one of those Macintosh things.
I like my Macintosh.
Yeah, but it doesn't work at all.
But I like it.
Yeah, but liking doesn't matter.
It works for my graphic design.
That's true. It does do that.
That's all I need it for. I mean, otherwise I just stream things and download pictures of mermaids.
right. Basically it's like a glorified iPhone.
No, it's not.
I can't really fault them. Apple does make good stuff. I just, I'm a PC guy. So all of my stuff, everybody tells me I need to do the podcasts on Apple because the editing software is better. I'm like, really? It's better than Adobe Audition? I don't think it is. I don't think, not for the price I paid for Adobe Audition. So I can't say what I paid for that because it would be embarrassing. Anyway, we're totally off topic. So let's talk a little bit more about the experiences you've had as a new GM and how you've dealt with some of your situations. And I know that almost everyone who listens to the podcast plays your game.
Yeah, so.
I shouldn't say that. Almost everyone who plays your game listens to the podcast. That's what I meant to say. Otherwise, it makes it sound like we have like no audience, and we have like 500 people. So
Awesome.
I don't think your game is that big.
No, not quite. It's big.
It's big.
We're averaging like 12 people a game, with
right.
more soon because someone's going to be done with a semester soon, and someone's got a new job, and
yeah. How are you going to handle integrating new players?
Well, so far the people who are coming, they were able to make it to the pilot.
Okay.
So they're already a part of the group. They're not a part of the better established group now.
Right.
But they were part of the initial. This is real.
Yeah, the hard part introduction's already been done.
Yep. That's one of the initial things that I wanted was to have a giant. The pilot game was everyone who wants to play, show up. This will be a bonded by battle sort of thing.
Right, brothers in arms kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. So now that you're there, it'll, you can come and go, and it'll be easier because, there's some history there. And when we get new players who weren't a part of that, I figure incorporate them by being a plot hook or being involved in something, and then, the PCs find them or something anyway, so that there's this sort of togetherness feeling because they're children, and
right.
That's kind of how things work.
Right. Kids got to do what kids got to do.
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking, I was going to ask give us an example of one of the problems one of the panic moments you've had as a new GM and how you resolved it. I know you've had them.
I'm going to have to go with when they picked the mushroom.
Okay.
So I had this plot idea, and everything was going really, really well, and there was this crazy funky mushroom, and one of the characters who's a kleptomaniac, she's like, I'm gonna take it. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't. Oh, you did that. What? No.
That's my whole story, damn it.
So I've had to. The rest of that session was making this up.
Right.
And then for like the next session after that, I didn't do a whole lot with that because I just didn't know where to go.
Right.
Eventually I figured out the thing, and that's also when I sort of got to the point of like, okay, well, this is what's going to happen without them, and then they can just figure it out. Right.
Yeah, like I talked about in previous episodes. So have you actually written your NPCs and their motivations and whatnot, or are you just kind of making that up too?
I have some of the bigger NPCs, like there's as mentioned to the PCs, there's some matrons, and they're going to be meeting.
Okay.
And I can't say about what because they listen to this.
That's fair.
But yes, so things happened, and they must discuss things, and they must decide what to do about it.
Right. Yeah. So you're prepared to totally bone your players in the event that they don't do anything about it?
I am considering it. I am strongly considering it. They've already because there's actually now 2 factions of fairies that they have anchored. Mm-hmm. So one of them will be a more drastic result, and the other one is, as they've already been experiencing, all of your precious mementos and objects and belongings are disappearing.
Right. Now, when you talk about this is New World of Darkness, so obviously the systems are cross compatible, unlike the original World of Darkness, even though some people don't. Some people think they were, they really weren't. In fact, White Wolf even says they really weren't. Anyway, are you using stuff out of the Changeling book, or are you just kind of going on your own?
Right now I'm kind of going on my own. I want to read things out of the Changeling book, but I need to get my hands on some of those books, and I know you let me get some, and I need to read them and look at them and actually figure out what's there.
Well, it can be tough because those books, it's another system basically, so it can be a lot to learn. And I know that if you're not planning on delving really deep into the Changeling world of the world part of World of Darkness, then there's no real need to do it, and making it up as you go is fine, because then no one can look at a book and know the rules, how it's going to work.
And I figure, I want to try and draw this one out a bit, since originally it was supposed to be a short little, yay, isn't this fun? And now it's not going to be. So, things are they will progress and they will happen, but, they're not going to instantly get to meet the matrons or, figure out all the big stuff.
Do you have an end game in mind for how you want the story to end?
Well, I'm actually planning this. Well, do you mean like the fairy plot or like the whole game?
The whole game.
I'm really hoping that this game is able to progress for many, many years, or hopefully hypothetically many years. Because what I want to do is I actually slowly want the characters to like grow and age and stuff, and a few of them, when they hit puberty or later or something, they're actually going to become something. Maybe when they hit puberty, oh look, you are one of the lost children of the Garu, and you just had your first transformation. Or maybe one of them has a great uncle 3 times removed who is a part of the fold and decides that they are worthy of being embraced, or something. There's one character who I have plans for with her backstory, and it's going to be really cool.
Maybe.
Maybe. But it because the way she wrote her backstory, it's like, I could do something with this. And your character has written yourself to fit this perfectly. So this is a really great idea, and I'm really excited to do this. But it won't happen for a long time. I sort of want to use it as a, maybe you will become something way farther down the road, because I want them to be regular children for a long time, and it's also sort of that carrot on a stick to continue the plan.
Right. How do you expect to? I mean, how do you plan to keep the motivation to keep doing this and keep not just the player's motivation but your own? Because you got a great idea for a story now, but in 6 months you'll have forgotten that great idea.
I come up with stories all the time.
Sure.
I love artwork, and I love looking at DeviantArt and reading all that kind of stuff. And I can look at a picture and then I'll create an entire story around that picture.
Sure.
So I have hundreds of plot ideas that I've come up with over the last couple of years, and I've never done anything with it. And I have gigabytes of inspiration on my external that I can look through and figure stuff out. And I also have encyclopedias of supernatural creatures that I can just flip to a page and be like, we're just going to do this.
Right. So you don't really have any kind of overall direction. You just kind of have a general idea what you want to do.
I have a general idea of where I think it'll go someday. Right now, probably the biggest villain that'll take the most amount of time to figure out is the Shadow Man, because they don't really have any idea who or what he is.
Right. Right. And I mean, you think you'll be able to hold on to the 2 GM plot for the storyline, for the mentality and the storyline and the ability to run this through several years?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no idea. That's
fair.
We'll see what happens.
Are you prepared for the fact that are you prepared for the possibility that this will not get as far as you are hoping it will? That it will, you might get a year out of the gameplay, or maybe a year and a quarter, or even maybe 7 or 8 months, and then you'll never have the closure?
Yes. Although one of the things I'm hoping for is that it's a large enough group. And if one of the games I played, people came in and out of it. So the game went for several years, but by the end it was a completely different group than when it was in the beginning.
Right.
So if people want to go in and out of the game, that's cool.
Right. Yeah, we've done several of those games over the years. I tend to shy away from them now because of, we're old enough now that kids and schedules and everything else, it really can mess with stories. Also, I tend to be a fairly focused, I don't focus on, I shouldn't say that. I tell a lot of stories that are story focused, but I also tell a lot of stories that are player driven now. And it's really, really hard to write a story for a character who then stops showing up, or integrating them into the plot in some significant way, Jesse, and then having them have a kid and go away. So,
yep, that is, so far, I think I'm found what my current regular players are going to be. So once we get a bit further in, I become a little more confident in where I am. I want to start writing things specifically for them.
Right. Yeah, it makes sense. So,
one of the things that I want to do, and that I told all of my players, is each of you will have a shining moment. Each of you will have something specially created for you at some point.
Right. You'll have your moment in the sun. 15 minutes of fame. And that's a really good thing to do too. I do this in my games. Every group has what I call the hierarchy. And it's the players who are actually leading the story, and then you have a bunch of players who are in the background, kind of they're there, but they're not really leading the story. They're contributing, but they're not leading. Have you established what that is for, at least in your own mind?
Well, in my mind, there's the leader of the group, and then there's the person who leads the leader.
Right. I know who those characters are.
Yep, I'm certain that you do. And everyone generally sort of follows them. So far, most everybody has had something significant to contribute in one way or another. But I just lost what I was saying.
That's fair. Have you found anything yet as a GM you don't like doing? Like, there's any aspects, I have a lot of problems with hauntings or pets and that kind of stuff.
A couple players do have pets, and I'm having a little bit of trouble. One of them has a monkey. Right. Which I allowed for various reasons. And it's balancing how to do the monkey and stuff, but it's also great because I finally come up with a plan for the monkey in the future. So that'll be.
You know what's a great tearjerker?
What?
Killing monkeys.
I was in no way, shape, or form thinking of doing that. No, that was not on my agenda.
I think the worst thing about most of the games I've run is when players take disadvantages or whatever it is that involve heavy GM toll outside of the normal storytelling. One that gives in mind is Haunted. It's a disadvantage in A Legend of the Five Rings. And I think there's stuff like that in some of the WoD stuff too. But basically, they're haunted by this NPC, and to me, that's just free points to the players. And I hate free points to the players. I don't like giving them anything that I can't abuse them with. And hauntings, to me, are so much more burden. I mean, they can be fun, and I've done a lot of cool things with them, but it can be more of a burden than an asset to the storytelling of the game. And I find that pets can be very similar, unless the pet is introduced in a specific way, or the GM had an idea at the very beginning of how to use that pet. I gave one of my Alpha AR characters a wolf that had been somewhat domesticated, although more like domesticated, like Dances with Wolves domesticated, as opposed to like, Clifford the Big Red Dog domesticated. So I can definitely understand that a monkey could be a problem. That's actually why I brought it up, is because I know you have a player with a monkey, and I love the player that you've got. She's fantastic. However, she is one of those people that has a very snowflake personality. She's very, very shiny snowflake, and I love you, Mandy, but very shiny snowflake.
I have plans for her character.
Right. It can be a tough thing to deal with, and it sounds like you've gotten that experience, and it's good to get out of the way.
Yep, I'm still working on figuring out the monkey, but I'm starting to figure out plans on how to incorporate people's merits and flaws, and make their flaws a merit, or make their merits flaws.
Yeah, which is a fantastic thing to do. It's one of the best steps to look at is when you're looking at creating stories for your characters, for your players. A great way to do it is to look at what they've already put. Like I talked about it in a previous episode. Look at what's on their sheet and use that. Now, White Wolf, the new WoD system doesn't really have a great flaws system. It's got an okay one, but it's not as deep as at least the original one was, or as some other games are. And it's kind of a bummer. But you're a vampire, so there's things we can do with that. Obviously, these guys aren't. They're all 12-year-olds, but there's a lot of story inherent with that.
Yep, that is one thing that I did. For flaws and merits and things, I just said, you can look at Old World, you can look at New World.
Yeah.
Whatever. Take the merits, take the flaws.
It never hurts to have flaws, and I mean, did you allow your players to start? Do they all start with the same number of experience points, or did you vary it based on their backgrounds or because their ages, or?
They all started the same.
Okay.
But one of the things I did for merits and flaws was you have 7 points that you can put into merits. You can have as many flaws as you want. You have 7 points you can put into merits. If you want more than 7 points of merits, you have to have that equal number of points in flaws.
Right.
So if you want 8 points worth of merits, you have to have 8 points worth of flaws.
Oh, really? So I was thinking you meant more that if you have more than 7, you need to have at least 1 point in a flaw.
Because then they could take, Jack of all trades and Guardian Angel and all of those sorts of things. And that would if you want 8 points of merits, you have to have 8 points of flaws.
Nice.
So I find that kind of helps balance it out. And it also, the ones who really want all of these awesome merits, well, you also have all of these problems.
Right. You can be the superhero, but sometimes you're afraid of rain on windows. My cat, I don't know, he's an idiot. So Malkavians, yep. He'd have been a great Malkavian. So is there anything else you want to talk about real quick? I know we're getting close to short on time, but we can extend a little bit.
Was it been that long already?
It's 52 minutes.
Wow.
50 minutes really, because after I edit some stuff out, but
right. I guess one of the main things is let the PC shine. Like I said earlier, the skull bashing from one of the characters. That was a defining moment for his character,
right.
Because it goes along with one of the things he was thinking of what his character might be,
right.
And it also works out well because depending how things go the next session, he is the son of, I think it's like the superintendent or something of the police force, and he has investigation. So if he rolls, then maybe he'll be able to cover up if they murdered a man, which maybe they didn't. Maybe they did.
Oh, right. How do you deal with the psychological aspects of the game? I know World of Darkness, New World and Old World both have the morality system, or whatever they call it. I think it's morality in the new system. And you have to roll and decide if it really affects you psychologically or not, and lowers your threshold and stuff. Did you make him roll, or is it something you decided you don't get a roll, you're just going down?
He made a roll, and it didn't affect him.
Okay.
Which is it makes sense for the character he's trying to roll up, but I'm thinking I may be making some changes to how that works in the future, some home rules, so that maybe it's not quite so easy or something.
Yeah, that's one of the problems I had. Is I think in all the times I've run New World, I don't think I've ever had anybody lose a level of, I think it's called humanity. Is that what it is?
I know that's what it was in the old one. I don't remember.
Yeah, it's either humanity or morality. I don't remember off the top of my head.
One of those things.
One of those things. It's the same basic concept, but I don't think I've ever had a player fail one in the newest World game I ran, and it can be a problem because it doesn't reflect really the PTSD type traumas that you can get. And being somebody who works in the medical field and knowing the things that I've seen and that I've seen other people see and the way it's affected them, those roles are not great. They're not justifiable. And if you want a brooding World of Darkness game, which is what the system is for.
Oh yeah, well, I think one of the ways that I helped set that was one of the driving force in the pilot was that one of their classmates went missing.
Sure.
And they never recovered her. They found her in on the other side of a mirror, and they did all the stuff, and they broke the mirror, and she didn't come out. Maybe she's dead. Maybe she's not.
Right. And
to be continued.
That can really, I mean, that alone, whether she's dead or not, can really have a psychological impact on the players. And I think that one of the nice things about WOD is it doesn't really play, it doesn't really wear a lot of kid gloves. The system doesn't, the setting doesn't. When you're talking about things, I mean, you're talking about gothic horror games and tales like that. So you can really have a lot of storytelling with that aspect. Have you really delved into the darker side of the game, or are you trying to keep it fairly light so far?
We haven't delved into the darker side yet. That's one of the things I wanted to be sort of a gradual transition, because it started out with and your classmate's missing, and most of them are going with the she's dead and it's our fault.
Sure.
So there's a whole bunch of other fun things that go with that.
Right.
I want to try and keep it a little bit lighter now, and then do the slow sort of progression, because it's not like you're a bunch of kids and you happen to be a part of this and suddenly now you are involved in all of the dark nitty gritty of the world. It takes time to get
right. But I mean, there's a psychological difference too. There's the she's dead and it's our fault. I just beat a dude to death with with a baseball bat. We've seen these creatures that are in the darkness and the shadows come out and take us. Are you letting them? Do you think that your players are role playing the psychological effects properly? Are they playing it to where you want them to play it? Do you want them to be darker? Do you want them? Do you think they're taking it too fast? I mean, how do you think that they're going as far as what you want?
I think they're doing all right. Some of the players seem to have taken it in stride, but the ones who've done that are the younger ones, where they're still at that age where it doesn't quite
it's just a cool Disney movie.
Yeah. And then the other ones, they're doing the put on a brave face, but they have nightmares and things like that. So
yeah. Now are you thinking that you can maintain that level of innocence for a long time, or do you think you're thinking about it from an outside perspective? Do you think it's something that your players you're gonna be able to maintain, or is your story dark enough that it's gonna really change the way your players are and reasonably affect them?
Well, the name of the story is Innocence Lost.
Right.
The idea is that eventually, they're going to be hardened. They're going to see things. They're going to know things.
Right. The veil will be broken.
And their lives will never be the same.
Have you used any of the fear rules?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet, but there hasn't really been, apart from the pilot, which it could have been, but apart from that, there hasn't really been any thing super fear, and the players have been doing really good with that themselves. Like
Sure.
there's this instance in the woods, and they knew something was circling them, and they did a great job of being like, we have to get out of here. Something
Right.
we have to leave. We have to go. And of course, one of the character wanders off by themselves, and they're like, where is she? We're going to kill her. We have to leave. We have
Yeah.
to leave now.
Right. Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's a fun game, and I mean, it sounds like you've made some of the early GM mistakes, but you're bound to make them. You're a new GM, and that you're handling them mostly pretty well. I suppose it comes down to getting more familiar with the system and the setting, and the understanding of the world you're trying to tell. And I think that one of the things that I would suggest you do is put a little bit more thought into the flavor of the campaign, and maybe flesh it out a little bit more for yourself. I think that would help you a lot to understand what you want to do with the game, and to be able to help your pacing. Because if you think your pace is going too fast, which you've said a little bit, you might be able to stretch it out a little bit by getting yourself more wrapped up in what everything is going on, which you said it seems like you're trying to do.
Trying.
So yeah, it's a lot of writing. It really there's a lot of thought that goes into running a game, and one of the things that a lot of new GMs and a lot of players don't understand is that for about every 4 hours of gameplay, you've got about another 8 hours of writing. And it might not just be your actual writing. Like it's a misnomer, I guess, because you're not actually necessarily writing things down. You're just thinking about it and familiarizing yourself with what you want to do and the feeling and the flavor of the game you want. If you watch, I'm trying to think of two movies that are roughly the same movie, but that have different perspectives. You look at the Die Hard movie. Have you seen Die Hard? No? Oh, okay. Well, have you seen Legend? I've seen. All right, I can't use movies as an example then. It's hard to explain, I guess.
I did read a set of novels. One of them was from one person's perspective, and another was from another person's, but it was the same story.
Sure. Which story was that? Which one?
I don't remember.
Okay.
It was,
Have you seen Harry Potter?
yes.
Have you seen The Lord of the Rings?
Yes.
Okay. There's two distinct film styles, even though they're both fantasy stories, and they both have extremely high fantasy elements. Or have you seen The Hobbit? That's an even better one.
Yes.
Okay, so you've got The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. There's two that we can actually talk about, because you can look at the epic nature of Lord of the Rings and how those movies felt epic and they felt really compelling and everything else. Then you look at The Hobbit, which they're trying to recapture that epic feeling, even though the story that they're telling isn't that kind of epic. I think it's really important for a GM to know the feeling they want and the feeling the story is actually giving. So if that's something that I would look at for you. I don't think it's a problem for you right now, but it's something that will help you in the long run. Is pick out, if you want this great epic story where the dwarves are going to go and destroy the ring of the ring of Sauron and save the universe, then that's one type of feeling. But if you've got a bunch of guys who want to get together and go take back their house and get back all their stuff that some dude stole from them, that's a whole different story. It's a whole different type of setting, feeling, and you can't really apply the same overarching feel. So that's something to definitely keep in mind. And I think that writing, quote unquote writing, will really help you flesh that out a little bit. That's my piece of advice for you anyway.
Okay.
The doctor's prescription, as it were. So I don't know. Eric came up with the Dr. RPG thing, and he came up with Dr. D&D. I think Dr. RPG sounds better. And I am running with it.
Oh yeah, I listened to that and I was cracking up the whole time.
Yeah.
I think my roommates were looking at me like, what is wrong?
That's when you play it for them and tell them to get into the show and listen to it.
Yep.
So, although one of your future roommate is on the show occasionally.
Yep. and maybe future player. And
Yeah.
And it's also one of my current roommates is one of my current players.
Sure.
So that's,
Get them to listen to the show. Spread the word. 2 friends, then 2 friends, then 2 friends.
be like, hey, listen to this thing that I was on and tell me how awesome I was.
That's right. That's exactly what it is. So I'm getting ready to run a new vampire game. I'm not too close to it yet because I got to finish up my Star Wars game first. I'm going to finish up my Star Wars game, and it's once we get back to it, which will be this coming Monday, hopefully. I've got 3 gaming sessions of that to reunite the party. The PCs have taken about an 8-month break. Maybe more. I haven't really decided on the timeline yet. But anyway, they've taken a break, and now they're all spread out across the galaxy, and I need to get them all back together. So about 3 gaming sessions for that, and then probably 10 gaming sessions, maybe 10 gaming sessions after that. Then it's all about World of Darkness again. I'm going back to the vampire and woad stuff, and I'm actually going to do a straight up vampire game. So that's something I think you could be interested in and could get yourself into. And I'm going to talk about that more in a future episode. I'm going to go back and we're going to talk about all of the Vampire the Masquerade and Vampire the Requiem stuff because I got some feedback from some people about the Woad episode. And I'm going to get deep into the Woad stuff because we glossed over a lot and people complained about things that we already knew. We just didn't talk about exactly because we just assumed everybody knew them. So hopefully we'll get that done and that'll be a good episode for you to listen to. Do you have anything else you want to talk about before we go?
Nope.
All right. Well, in that case, I will go ahead and bring the show to a close. We're going to try to, we got as close to an hour as we could on this one. The last episode is going to be almost 2 hours. I might break that up into 2 episodes. I don't know. So as always, I'm trying to make the show the best I can for you guys. The best show I can every week, but I need your feedback to do that. And I'm actually going to do a feedback episode pretty soon. I've got almost enough feedback to do either a listener feedback section or maybe even a whole show. I'll probably just do a couple sections on shows, make it a little bit more interesting, put another segment in the show. You know what I mean? And you can leave us a voicemail by going online to www.irnerdivore.com and clicking on the icon on the right side of the screen and leaving us a message. It is about 3 minutes you can leave. And if we like it, we'll put it on the air and we'll talk to you about it. You can also email your questions, comments, concerns, complaints, or blah, blah, blahs to podcast@irnerdivore.com. That's podcast@irnerdivore.com. I do read all the emails. I will get your guys' feedback on the show really soon. Get your feedback in as quick as you can. That way I can get you guys on the next show. Don't forget to check out Geek Fan Expo at Facebook and Twitter at Geek Fan Expo or online at geekfanexpo.com. Again, GFX is going to be the DoubleTree Hotel in Dearborn, Michigan, September 5th, 6th, and 7th, 2014. Tickets are on sale now, 20% off through using the promo code IronNerdivore. Help us spread the word of geek and the message of our show. To do this, just tell 2 of your friends, to have them tell 2 friends, and then their 2 friends, and so on and so forth on down the road. We're now being heard in 5 countries, 5 whole countries: the U.S., Canada, England, New Zealand, and Japan. So let's get even more listeners and spread it more around the world. Keep up the great work and keep spreading the word. It's a great thing. I want to be internet famous, even though I know that's asking a lot. So, but the show should be good enough for you guys to make me internet famous. Come on. Also, you can check out at Geek Fan Expo, you can check out Tashi and learn more about mermaiding and whatnot. So that's going to be a thing you can do. So buy your tickets today. We have a lot of tickets left. We also have rooms still available. So, get in and get it done. The price will go back up on May 3rd. So anyway, that should about do it for us here today. On behalf of myself, my guest, Tashi, and everybody here at the Wandering Pod Studios, so long and thanks for all the fish.
Baby, please don't go. Baby, please don't go. Baby, please don't go back to New Orleans. You know it hurts me so. Baby, I'm way down here. You know I'm way down here. Baby, I'm way down here in a rolling fog. Baby, please.